My 37 female husband, 43 male, is cheating on me with a 18-year-old boy. What do I do next? I'm in my late 30s, he is in his early 40s. We have been married for almost 10 years. No kids. In the last year he came out as bisexual but not by choice. I caught him talking to men on Grindr. He swore he never physically cheated and was just exploring fantasies he never had the chance to explore. We went through a significant rough patch, but ultimately I decided to give him another chance. Several months ago he asked if I would consider an open relationship to allow him to experiment with a man. I said that wasn't something I could ever be comfortable with, and if he needs to do this, then the only option is to separate. I have tried to be patient and understanding. He said he didn't need it and I should forget he even asked. Since the Grindr incident, I have not fully trusted him, and I admit I looked at his phone without permission. He has been texting an 18-year-old young man for well over a month. The messages are sexual and he, my husband, is very overtly asking for more. I don't know if anything has happened in person. This is not a young man he met online, at work, at a bar. That would still be horrifying to me, but at least slightly more acceptable. He is our close mutual friend's foster son who we have known for years. I was aware he was gay, but I never would have dreamed this would happen. He is a child to me. I admit that at first I was angry with the young man, but I understand he is young and vulnerable, and it is my husband who is in the wrong. From the messages I saw, he was not encouraging this, and some of his responses to my husband seemed uncomfortable. I can't blame him. I have not yet spoken to my husband. I don't know what to say. He knows something is up because he is being overly considerate and attentive. I know I need to leave. I couldn't ever feel the same about him after this. I don't know if I should say anything to the young man or his foster parents. To be very clear, this relationship is over, but I need advice about how to approach it. Small update. I am currently staying with a friend while I figure out my next steps, and I have been making a start getting legal and financial advice in place. I have not yet spoken to my husband. He seems to have realized something is up because he is being much nicer and trying to engage much more than usual, but staying with a friend for a few days is not terribly unusual for me in itself. I have not yet spoken to 18M and or his foster parents. I am still trying to figure out the best approach, but I have received some helpful advice from this post which I will keep in mind. I don't imagine any of this will be resolved anytime soon, but I expect the coming weeks to be extremely difficult. Further update. I have spoken to the young man's foster parents and briefly to him. Some information came to light that stressed the urgency and led me to believe it would be safer and more helpful to speak to them first, despite him being over 18. I don't have the time or energy to explain exactly what happened, and of course it wouldn't be appropriate to share a lot of detail. The situation is even more complicated and upsetting than I realized, and my husband is entirely at fault. The young man is safe, more or less, and my husband's behavior is no longer hidden from his carers. I am in the early stages of determining my next steps regarding separating from my husband, and I am receiving specialist advice about this. Update. I left to stay with my friend because I couldn't look at my husband and I didn't want to discuss it with him on any level before receiving professional advice. I contacted my friends, 18 males foster parents, and asked to speak to them and their son. I then became aware he is currently having some kind of mental health crisis. As a result, I spoke to his parents rather than going to him directly, which I still believe was the correct choice. It was a difficult conversation, as I'm sure you can imagine. I think they did their best to manage their feelings for my sake, but they were appalled, as am I. They spoke to their son without me present, and he gave them full access to his phone and admitted what had been going on. He said my husband's attention was unwanted, and I fully believe this. My friends shared the messages with me, and they were significantly worse than what I had already seen. Allegedly, it didn't start until after he turned 18, which isn't much comfort. I have been in contact with a divorce solicitor, and I am clearer on the next steps. The relationship is over and I have no interest in reconciling. I have now spoken to my husband and it only validated my decision. I gave him the opportunity to admit what had been doing and he played dumb. As he became increasingly aware that I knew something was going on, he tried to cover himself and make vague excuses. When I told him specifically what I knew, he tried to blame 18 male for pursuing him when he was vulnerable, due to being unsure of his sexuality, which was sickening as well as untrue. When I confronted him with the evidence, the messages, when he realized I didn't believe 18 male was the instigator, he blamed his actions on depression and overconsumption of porn. I believe the latter is true, but it is certainly not an excuse. I informed him of my intentions, to end the relationship and pursue divorce. He was quite unpleasant and hurtful at this point. My intention is for any further communication to be done via third parties because I can't bear speaking to him. The separation is in the very early stages and it is likely to take a considerable length of time to resolve, even if my husband cooperates, which he currently does not seem to be minded to do. Financially, I'm in a good position and the solicitor I have been dealing with has been reassuring. I have good support, though most people in my life have no idea what happened. I'm ashamed of his actions and my poor judgment. I can't say much about 18 male. He is very mentally ill and my husband either took advantage of that or contributed to it, or most likely both. His foster parents are fully aware and I understand he currently has a lot of involvement from mental health services and social services, so I hope he is safe. I don't really have a relationship with him and it isn't my place to get involved just to make myself feel less guilty. That's all I can say, and I don't imagine there will be anything more to add other than divorce proceedings hopefully progressing as quickly and smoothly as possible. I'm trying to focus on the practical issues, but emotionally I am not doing well. I'm not looking forward to confronting that when the dust settles. TLDR, my husband sent inappropriate sexual messages to our mutual friend's vulnerable 18-year-old foster son. 18 male is now receiving support and I am divorcing my husband.